The UES Indomitable cut through the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Captain Jinho Choi stood on the bridge of humanity's newest Dreadnought, watching stars streak past the viewports as his ship traveled faster than light. The vessel was massive, over a kilometer long and armed with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Jinho was a career military officer who had spent 30 years climbing through the ranks of the United Earth Space Force. He was tall and lean with sharp eyes that missed nothing. His crew respected him because he never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. Today, they were on their shakedown cruise testing all the ship's systems before it officially entered service. Captain, called Tactical Officer So Young Kang from her station. She was one of the smartest people Jinho had ever worked with, able to analyze complex battle situations in seconds. We're receiving a priority transmission from the outer colonies. It's strange. Put it through, Jinho ordered. The message that filled the bridge speakers was broken and filled with static, but the words were clear enough to chill everyone who heard them. It was Communications Officer Hyunwoo Lee's final transmission from Research Station Kepler 442b, Human Station Kepler 442b to any vessel. We are under attack by unknown hostiles with phase-shifting capabilities. They cannot be harmed by conventional weapons. If anyone receives this, they can walk through walls. They can appear inside our shields. Nothing stops them. We're analyzing their dimensional signatures now, but, oh God, they're in the bridge. This is our final. The message cut off in a burst of static. Jinho felt ice form in his stomach. When did we receive this? 18 hours ago, sir, So Young replied. It's been bouncing through the quantum relay network. The timestamp shows it was sent from the Centauri system. Navigation Officer Dongwoo Seo looked up from his calculations. He was young but reliable, one of the best pilots in the fleet. Sir, at maximum burn, we're still 40 hours out from Centauri. If the attack happened 18 hours ago, he did not need to finish. Everyone on the bridge knew what that meant. Whatever had attacked the research station was long gone, and any survivors would be dead by now. But Jinho had not become a captain by giving up when things looked hopeless. Chief Science Officer Nam, report to the bridge immediately. I want to know everything we can learn from that transmission. Woo Jin Nam arrived within minutes. He was a small, quiet man who spent most of his time buried in research, but he knew more about exotic physics than anyone else in the fleet. He listened to the message 3 times before speaking. Captain, this is fascinating and terrifying. The attackers appear to use some kind of dimensional phase technology. They can shift between our reality and parallel dimensions at will. Is that even possible? Jinho asked. In theory, yes. We've been studying dimensional mechanics for decades, but we've never seen it weaponized like this. If these beings can truly phase through matter, they would be nearly unstoppable in conventional warfare. Weapons Officer Mi Kyung-han spoke up from her station. She was a tough woman who had served in 3 border wars, and Jinho had never seen her look worried before. Sir, if they can phase through our armor and shields, our weapons would be useless against them. Maybe not, Woo Jin said slowly. Captain, do you remember the reality anchor project we've been working on? The theoretical weapons designed to lock space-time into a fixed state? Jinho's eyes widened. The reality anchors were highly classified. Experimental weapons. So secret that only a few ships carried them. The Indomitable was one of those ships equipped with prototype systems that existed nowhere else in the human fleet. You think they might work against phase-shifting enemies? It's possible. If we can create a field of locked space-time around these attackers, they might be trapped in our dimension where conventional weapons can hurt them. Chief Engineer Young-sik Choi's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, if you're thinking about using the reality anchors in combat, I need to warn you. They've never been tested at full power. We don't know what they might do to our own systems. Jinho made his decision. Mr. Seo, plot a course for Centauri, maximum burn. Sir, that will put enormous stress on the engines. Do it anyway, and prepare the quantum tunnel drive. The bridge fell silent. The quantum tunnel drive was the ship's most advanced and dangerous system. It could punch a hole through space-time itself, allowing near instantaneous travel across vast distances. but it had never been used outside of controlled test conditions. "Captain," So Young said carefully, "the tunnel drive is still experimental. Using it could destroy the ship. If we don't try, those people are definitely dead," Jinho replied. "And if these attackers are expanding into human space, more colonies will follow. We're the only ship in the fleet equipped to fight this kind of enemy. We have to try." The next few hours were tense as the crew prepared for the most dangerous journey of their lives. Chief Engineer Young-sik worked frantically to modify the ship's systems, while Science Officer Wu Jin ran calculations on dimensional physics. The rest of the crew checked weapons and ran combat drills. Medical Officer Hai-Jin Park prepared the sickbay for casualties they could not even imagine. She was a skilled doctor who had treated everything from plasma burns to alien parasites, but she had never dealt with injuries from dimensional warfare. Communications specialist Sung-Ho Kim tried to contact other ships in the area, but the Centauri system was on the edge of human space. The Indomitable would be going in alone. When everything was ready, Jinho gave the order that would change human history. Engage quantum tunnel drive. Reality twisted around the Indomitable as it punched through the barriers between dimensions. Space and time bent like rubber as the massive ship forced its way through the quantum foam that lay beneath normal space. Stars became lines of light, then vanished entirely as the Dreadnought traveled through a realm where physics worked differently. For 30 seconds that felt like eternity, the ship existed partially outside normal reality. Crew members reported strange sensations, feeling like they were in two places at once, seeing colors that had no names, hearing sounds that came from everywhere and nowhere. Then they burst back into normal space in a flash of exotic radiation that lit up the Centauri system like a second sun. What they found there was worse than anyone had imagined. The entire system was under attack by a fleet of impossible ships. Vessel after vessel of crystalline design hung in space like malevolent jewels, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with stolen energy. Some were small and fast, darting between the planets like hunting predators. Others were massive beyond comprehension, their bulk blocking out entire star fields. "Dear God," whispered Dongwu from his navigation station. "How many of them are there?" "Sensors show over 200 ships," So Young reported, her voice tight with stress. "But Captain, their energy signatures, they keep flickering in and out of existence." On the main screen, they could see 3 inhabited worlds under siege. Massive alien dreadnoughts hovered over each planet like dark angels, their reality bending, weapons preparing to strip away entire atmospheres. Cities burned in the distance, their lights going out one by one as the invaders worked methodically to erase all human presence from the system. Jinho felt rage build in his chest as he watched innocent worlds die. These attackers were not just conquering human space, they were erasing it completely, leaving nothing behind but empty planets ready for their own colonization. "Sir," Mi-kyung called from weapons, "I'm trying to lock onto targets, but they keep phasing in and out of our targeting systems. I can't get a solid lock on any of them." "Then we'll have to get creative," Jinho replied. "Mr. Nam, are the reality anchors ready?" "Yes, sir. But Captain, I need to warn you. If we activate them at full power, every ship in the system will know we're here." "Good. I want them to notice us." Jinho turned to address his entire crew over the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the Captain. We are outnumbered 200 to 1 by an enemy that can phase through matter itself. Our weapons have never been tested in real combat. Our experimental systems might kill us before the enemy gets a chance." He paused, looking around the bridge at his officers. They were scared, he could see it in their eyes, but they were also ready to fight. "But those monsters down there are murdering innocent people. They think they can walk into human space and erase us like we never existed. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten human civilians. All stations, prepare for combat. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of." The Indomitable began its attack run toward the heart of the alien fleet, its reality anchor arrays charging with power that could lock space-time itself into a fixed state. Behind them, the quantum tunnel drive cooled down from its first combat use, having delivered humanity's newest weapon to a battle that would determine the fate of human expansion into space. Admiral Velthara noticed the new arrival immediately. Her sensors detected the massive human ship as it burst into the system in a flash of exotic energy she had never seen before. The vessel was crude by Cathera standards, built of simple metal instead of living biomechanical components, but it was enormous. "What is that thing?" she asked her second-in-command. The stars held no secrets from Admiral Velthara. She had seen them burn, watched worlds crumble, and commanded fleets that could make suns go dark. Her crystalline body gleamed with a cold blue light as she stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Void Render. The massive ship drifted through space like a living nightmare, its biomechanical hull pulsing with stolen energy from a dozen conquered systems. For 300 years, the Cathara Empire had swept across the galaxy like a plague. No force could stand against them. Their ships could phase through solid matter, appearing inside enemy vessels without warning. Their warriors could walk through walls as if they were made of air. When they wanted to destroy something, they simply reached into another dimension and pulled it apart from the inside. Velthara had personally conquered 47 star systems. She had watched entire civilizations kneel before her fleet, begging for mercy that never came. The mighty Theknari warriors, with their plasma cannons and battle armor, had fallen in a single day. The psychic Moldari, who could read minds and bend reality with thought alone, had screamed in terror when her ships phased through their mental shields. Even the ancient AI collective, with technology older than most species, had shut down their networks rather than face complete destruction. Now, she stood before a new target. The holographic display showed a small star system with 3 inhabited planets and dozens of mining stations. The local species called it the Centauri trade route, a busy shipping lane that connected several peaceful worlds. "It would be easy. Pray." "Commander Zekran," Velthara said to her second-in-command, a tall crystalline being whose body sparked with purple energy. "What do the scouts report?" Zekran's voice sounded like breaking glass. "The system has weak defenses, Admiral. A few patrol ships, some orbital platforms. The inhabitants are mostly traders and miners. They call themselves humans." Humans? Velthara had never heard of them before. In 3 centuries of conquest, she had learned the names of every major species in this part of the galaxy. "Are they warriors?" "No, Admiral, they appear to be a young race. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their ships use simple fusion drives and chemical explosives. They have no phase technology, no reality-bending weapons. They will not even see us coming." Velthara nodded. It would be another easy victory. She looked out at her fleet, 200 ships of various sizes, all of them alive in their own twisted way. The Cathara did not build their vessels. They grew them, feeding stellar energy and rare metals to living biomechanical organisms until they became starships. Each one was unique, shaped by the personality and needs of its captain. The smallest ships were scouts, fast and nearly invisible when they phased between dimensions. The medium vessels were hunters, designed to phase inside enemy ships and tear them apart from within. The largest were world killers, massive creatures that could drain the life from entire planets. "Begin the assault," Velthara commanded. "I want the system cleared in 6 hours. The Emperor expects us to reach the galaxy's edge within the year." Far away at the edge of the system, Captain Taman Park was having a normal day. He sat in his command chair aboard Research Station Kepler 442b, watching his small crew work at their stations. The facility was not impressive, just a collection of metal modules connected by tunnels, orbiting a gas giant while they studied its unusual magnetic field. Taman was a quiet man in his 40s, with graying hair and kind eyes. He had spent most of his career doing peaceful research, studying strange phenomena at the edge of human space. His crew of 30 people were scientists and engineers, not soldiers. They had basic weapons for protection against pirates, but nothing more. Chief Engineer Bora Kim looked up from her console. She was a brilliant woman who could fix anything that broke on the station. "Captain, I'm still getting those weird readings from the sensor array. The gravitational waves don't match anything in our database." "Could it be a black hole?" Taman asked. "No, sir. This is different. The waves come and go in patterns, like something is moving in and out of normal space. Communications Officer Hyun-woo Lee, a young man who never seemed to stop talking, turned from his station. Maybe it's an alien ship with a new type of drive. Bo-ra shook her head. Too big for a ship, unless it's the size of a moon. Tae-min frowned. In 20 years of deep space research, he had never seen readings like this. Keep monitoring it. If the patterns change, let me know immediately. He had no way of knowing that death was already approaching his station. The Kethara scout ships had been watching them for hours, studying their defenses and finding them laughably weak. The humans had simple energy shields and basic sensor arrays. They would never detect ships that could phase between dimensions. The first sign of trouble came when the station's sensors went crazy. Every screen on the bridge started flashing warnings as massive objects appeared from nowhere, then vanished again just as quickly. What's happening? Tae-min demanded, jumping. From his chair, Bora's fingers flew over her controls. I don't know. The sensors are picking up ships, but they keep disappearing. It's like they're there 1 second and gone the next. Hyun-woo tried to make contact. Unknown vessels. This is Research Station Kepler 442b. Please identify yourselves. We are a peaceful scientific facility. There was no answer. The strange ships continued to flicker in and out of existence, moving closer to the station with each appearance. Then the attacks began. The first Kethara vessel materialized inside the station's outer ring, passing through the metal hull like it was empty space. Alarms screamed as the air rushed out through holes that had not been there seconds before. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, sealing off the damaged sections. Hull breach in Section C, Bo-ra shouted over the noise. Something just appeared inside our shield perimeter. Tae-min had never been in a real battle, but his training kicked in. All hands to emergency stations. Seal all compartments. Prepare for boarding action. More ships appeared throughout the station, their crystalline hulls glowing with alien energy. Warriors that looked like living crystals began phasing through the walls, their bodies shifting between solid and transparent as they moved. When the human security guards tried to shoot them, their bullets passed harmlessly through the intruders. Chief Security Officer Dai-ho Jang led the defense from the main corridor. He was a former military man who had joined the research mission for a quiet retirement. Now he found himself fighting enemies that could not be hurt by conventional weapons. They're inside the hull, he reported over his communicator. Our weapons aren't working. The energy bolts go right through them. In the engine room, Bo-ra was frantically analyzing sensor data while explosions echoed through the station. Captain, I think I know what we're dealing with. These things aren't really here, not completely. They're vibrating between our dimension and somewhere else. Can we stop them? Tae-min asked, running toward the bridge as sections of his station died around him. I don't know. Maybe if we could match their frequency or create some kind of dimensional anchor. But there was no time for experiments. The Kethara warriors were systematic in their destruction, moving through the station like ghosts and tearing apart everything they found. They did not seem interested in prisoners or negotiation. They were simply erasing all human presence from the system. Hyun-woo managed to get the long-range communications working just as the power started failing. Captain, I can send one message before they cut us off completely. Do it, Tae-min ordered. Send everything we know about these attackers. Someone needs to warn Earth. The message burst out into space just as the Kethara finished their work. Research Station Kepler 442b went dark, another casualty in the Empire's endless conquest. But the humans had done something that surprised their attackers. They had managed to study them during the attack, learning secrets that other species had died without discovering. Admiral Velthera received the report from her attack commander with satisfaction. The humans had been eliminated as expected, but there was something troubling in the data. These creatures had adapted quickly to the phase attacks, almost figuring out how to counter them before they died. Interesting, she thought to herself. Most species panicked when faced with Kethara technology. These humans had kept working even as their station burned around them. It did not matter now. They were dead, and her fleet was moving on to larger targets. Soon the entire system would be empty, ready for Cathara colonization. The humans would be just another forgotten species in the Empire's long history of conquest. But somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a message was traveling toward human territory, carrying warnings about an enemy that could walk through walls and could not be killed by normal weapons. The humans had learned something valuable in their final moments, and that knowledge was about to change everything. The space around the Indomitable began to change as the reality anchors powered up. Captain Jinho Choi watched the tactical display as waves of exotic energy spread out from his ship like ripples in a pond. Where the energy touched, space itself became more solid, more real, locked into a single-dimensional state. Reality anchors at 20% power, reported Science Officer Wu Jin Nam. Local space-time is stabilizing in a sphere around our position. Effect on enemy ships? Jinho asked. Tactical Officer So Young Kang studied her screens with growing excitement. Sir, the alien vessels caught in our field and they're becoming solid. Their phase signatures are locking into normal space. For the first time since the battle began, Jinho allowed himself a small smile. The reality anchors were working better than anyone had dared to hope. The theory had been simple. If the enemy could shift between dimensions, then preventing that shift would trap them in normal space where human weapons could hurt them. But Admiral Velthara was learning this lesson in the most painful way possible. On the bridge of the Void Render, alarms screamed as her biomechanical ship was forced into a single-dimensional state. The crystalline beings who made up her crew writhed in agony as their connection to interdimensional space was severed. For creatures who had spent their entire lives existing partially outside normal reality, being locked into one dimension felt like being buried alive. What is happening? Velthara demanded, her crystal body flickering with distressed energy patterns. Unknown, Admiral, her science officer reported. The human ship is projecting some kind of dimensional lock field. Our phase drives are not responding. Then use the reality weapons. Tear them apart from the inside. But the Cathara reality weapons depended on the same interdimensional technology that powered their ships. With space locked into normal physics around them, they were reduced to conventional energy beams and kinetic projectiles, weapons that were crude by their standards. Jinho saw his opportunity. All weapons, target the largest ships first. Fire. The Indomitable unleashed its full arsenal for the first time. Quantum torpedoes streaked through space, their exotic warheads designed to track targets across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Particle beam cannons fired streams of accelerated matter that could punch through any known armor. Most devastating of all were the reality cannons, weapons that created zones of locked spacetime around their targets. The first salvo struck 3 Cathara hunters that had been caught inside the anchor field. The alien ships, unable to phase away from the incoming weapons, took the full force of humanity's most advanced military technology. Their crystalline hulls cracked and shattered as quantum fire tore through them. Direct hits, So Young reported. 3 enemy vessels destroyed, but the victory came at a cost. The effort of maintaining the reality anchors was putting enormous stress on the Indomitable's power systems. Chief Engineer Young Sik Choi's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, we're redlining everything. The quantum reactors are at 110% capacity. I don't know how long we can maintain this. Hold it. Together, Chief, Jinho replied. We're just getting started. The rest of the Cathara fleet was adapting quickly to the new situation. Ships outside the anchor field began attacking from long range, firing reality-bending weapons that twisted space around the human Dreadnought. Admiral Velthara ordered her fastest vessels to circle the human ship, trying to find weak spots in its dimensional lock. More enemies coming in from 3 directions, reported Navigation Officer Dongwu Seo. They're staying outside our anchor field. Then we'll bring the field to them, Jinho decided. Mr. Seo, plot an intercept course. For that group of medium ships, we're going to ram our anchors right down their throats. The Indomitable accelerated toward a cluster of Cathara hunters, its reality field expanding as it moved. The alien ships tried to phase away, but as soon as the anchor field reached them, they were trapped in normal space. Human weapons followed, seconds later turning 2 more enemy vessels into expanding clouds of crystalline debris. Medical Officer Hai-Jin Park's voice came over the intercom. "Sick Bay to bridge, I'm treating 12 crew members for dimensional displacement sickness. Whatever those alien weapons are doing, they're affecting our people even through the hull." "Understood. Do what you can for them," Jinho replied. He had expected casualties, but he had hoped the ship's armor would protect them better. The battle was becoming a deadly dance. The Indomitable could destroy any Cathara ship caught in its reality field, but maintaining that field was draining its power reserves. The alien fleet was learning to attack from outside the anchor range using hit-and-run tactics to wear down the human vessel. Communications specialist Seung-Ho Kim picked up something alarming in the alien transmissions he was monitoring. "Captain, I'm detecting high-priority communications from the enemy fleet. They're not just talking to each other. They're sending messages somewhere else." "Where?" Jinho demanded. "I can't tell, sir, but the signal strength suggests they're communicating across interstellar distances." Wu Jin looked up from his science station with concern. "Captain, if they're calling for reinforcements..." Before he could finish his thought, massive tears began opening in space throughout the system. Not small dimensional rifts like the Cathara had been using for their phase drives, but enormous gashes in reality itself. Through them came ships that made the original attack fleet look tiny by comparison. "Dear God," whispered So Young as her sensors tried to process what they were seeing. "Captain, new contacts emerging from the dimensional rifts. I count hundreds of them. Some of these ships are the size of moons." The true Cathara invasion fleet had arrived, led by the flagship of the Void Emperor himself, a living construct the size of a small planet, its biomechanical hull pulsing with the energy of 1,000 dead worlds. This was not a raiding party or a scouting force. This was the main battle fleet of an empire that had conquered entire galaxies. Admiral Velthara felt relief wash through her crystalline form as she saw the massive reinforcements arriving. Her distress signal had been received, and the Emperor had responded with overwhelming force. The upstart humans would be crushed beneath the full might of the Cathara Empire. But Jinho was not intimidated. If anything, the arrival of enemy reinforcements made his choice easier. He turned to address his crew one final time before the real battle began. "All hands, this is the captain. I know what you're thinking. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1 by an enemy that's been conquering galaxies since before humans learned to make fire. Any sane person would retreat and call for backup." He paused, looking around the bridge at his officers. They were scared. He could see it in their faces, but they were also determined. They had signed up to defend humanity, and that was exactly what they were going to do. But here's the thing about humans. We've never been accused of being sane. We're the species that looked at the ocean and decided to cross it in wooden boats. We're the ones who saw the sky and figured out how to fly. When everyone told us something was impossible, we did it anyway just to prove them wrong. Jinho turned back to the tactical display, where the enemy superfleet was beginning to spread out in attack formation. "Those aliens out there think they know everything about warfare. They think their technology makes them unbeatable. They're about to learn what happens when you underestimate human stubbornness. Mr. Nam, bring the reality anchors to full power. I don't care if it burns out every system on the ship." "Captain," Wu Jin warned, "at full power the dimensional stress could tear the ship apart. Then we'll hold her together with duct tape and determination." Mr. CO plot a course for the center of their formation. "We're going to show them what a human dreadnought can do." "Sir, that's suicide," Dongwu protested. "They'll surround us and tear us apart." Jinho's smile was fierce and confident. "Maybe, but we're going to take a lot of them with us. And more importantly, we're going to show the galaxy that humans don't back down from a fight." The Indomitable began its final attack run, reality anchors blazing at maximum power. The field of locked space-time expanded around the ship like a bubble of absolute reality, forcing every alien vessel it touched into normal space where human weapons could reach them. Behind them, quantum tunnel drives that had never been designed for combat use began charging for a maneuver that would either save the day or destroy everything in the system. Chief Engineer Young-Sik worked frantically to keep the ship's power systems from exploding under the impossible load they were carrying. In her command center aboard the Void Render, Admiral Velthera watched the human ship charge directly toward her superfleet and felt something she had not experienced in 3 centuries of conquest: genuine concern. These humans were clearly insane, but their technology was proving more dangerous than she had expected. "All ships," she broadcast to her fleet, "focus fire on the human vessel. I want it destroyed before it can reach our core formation." But, even as she gave the order, Velthera could not shake the feeling that she was missing something important about these strange creatures who refused to surrender even when faced with impossible odds. In all her years of conquest, she had never encountered a species quite like. The dimensional rift left by the indomitable sacrifice slowly closed, leaving behind a field of crystalline debris that had once been the most feared fleet in the galaxy. The 3 human worlds of the Centauri system still glowed with life, their cities rebuilt and their people free, but the cost of their freedom floated in the void around them. Captain Jinho Choi was gone. His ship was gone. His crew of 800 brave souls had vanished in a flash of exotic radiation that had rewritten the laws of physics in this small corner of space. But their sacrifice had done something that 3 centuries of Cathara conquest had failed to accomplish. It had shown the galaxy that the Empire of the Void could be beaten. Admiral Velthara stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship watching the last of her surviving ships retreat through dimensional tiers toward Cathara space. Of the 200 vessels that had begun this mission, fewer than 30 remained operational. The rest were either destroyed or stranded in normal space, their interdimensional drives burned out by the human weapon. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we have lost contact with the Void Emperor's flagship." Velthara was not surprised. She had watched the massive construct tear itself apart as its interdimensional generators overloaded. The being who had ruled their empire for 1,000 years was either dead or trapped in normal space like so many of her ships. "What are your orders, Admiral?" For the first time in her long military career, Velthara did not have an immediate answer. The Cathara Empire had built its power on the certainty that no enemy could match their interdimensional technology. Now a species of primitive mammals had not only matched it, but found a way to turn it against them. "Send a message to all Cathara worlds," she finally ordered. "The humans are not to be underestimated. They possess weapons that can neutralize our phase technology, and the will to use them even at the cost of their own lives." As her ships vanished into the dimensional void, Velthara took one last look at the human worlds they had failed to conquer. Those 3 small planets had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months later, the news of humanity's victory had spread throughout known space. In the halls of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 different species gathered to discuss the implications of what had happened in the Centauri system. Ambassador Yeon-Soo Park, Captain Taemin Park's sister, stood before the assembled delegates. She was a skilled diplomat who had spent years building relationships with alien governments, but today she carried a simple message from Earth. "Fellow beings," she began, "humanity did not seek war with the Cathara Empire. We are explorers and researchers, not conquerors. But when they threatened our people, we did what any species would do. We defended ourselves." The Theknari war chief, a massive creature whose people had once been enslaved by the Cathara, spoke first. "Your people destroyed in one battle what we could not accomplish in decades of warfare. How?" "We learned," Yeon-Soo replied simply. "When Captain Taemin Park and his research team were attacked, they did not simply die. They studied their attackers, analyzed their technology, and transmitted that information to our fleet. Knowledge became our weapon." The Moldari psychic representative's mental voice touched every mind in the chamber. "But you sacrificed an entire ship's crew to achieve victory. That is not the action of a peaceful species." Yeon-Soo's expression grew solemn. "Captain Jinho Choi and his crew chose to make that sacrifice. They were not ordered to die for their people. They volunteered. That is what makes humans dangerous to our enemies and valuable to our friends. We will go to any length to protect those we care about." The AI Collective's mechanical avatar processed this information. Query: what are humanity's intentions regarding Cathara territory? We want nothing from them except the promise that they will never again attack human worlds or the worlds of our allies. The Kethara Empire spent centuries conquering and destroying. We offer them a chance to spend the next centuries learning and growing instead. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to reorganize itself around a new reality. The Kethara Empire, shaken by the loss of their emperor and much of their fleet, withdrew from dozens of conquered systems. Some Kethara chose to remain in dimensional exile, but others began the slow process of learning to exist in normal space alongside other species. Admiral Velthara was among those who chose integration over isolation. She arrived at Earth aboard a small diplomatic vessel, her crystalline form adapted for existence in normal space. The woman who had once commanded the destruction of entire worlds now came seeking understanding. She met with Admiral Chang Wook Kim, the head of Earth's Space Defense Force and Jinho Choi's former commanding officer. The meeting took place in a simple conference room aboard the orbital station that had replaced the destroyed Kepler 442b facility. "I have come to understand your species," Velthara said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "In all our centuries of conquest, we never encountered beings who would sacrifice themselves to save others. Your Captain Choi could have retreated. He could have called for reinforcements. Instead, he chose to die fighting for people he had never met." Chang Wook nodded. "That's what humans do. We protect our own, and we consider anyone willing to live in peace to be our own. I wish to learn this humanity. My people have forgotten what it means to create instead of destroy. Perhaps working with your species we can remember." Over the following years, the galaxy watched in amazement as former enemies became partners in exploration and discovery. Kethara biomechanical technology, combined with human determination and ingenuity, produced advances in medicine and engineering that benefited dozens of species. The memorial to the crew of the UES Indomitable became a pilgrimage site for beings from across the galaxy. The simple inscription read, "They died so others might live as humans do." But perhaps the most important change was not in technology or politics, but in the way species thought about conflict. The human victory had proven that any enemy, no matter how powerful, could be defeated by beings willing to sacrifice everything for their principles. Captain Tae Min Park, who had survived the original attack on Kepler 442b, was given command of humanity's newest deep space exploration vessel. As he prepared for his mission to map unknown regions of the galaxy, he carried with him the knowledge that his brother-in-law's sacrifice had opened the stars to human expansion. "Sir," asked his new communications officer, a young woman named Hunji Lee, "what should we do if we encounter another hostile empire?" Taemin smiled as he looked out at the stars. "The same thing humans have always done when faced with the impossible. We'll find a way to make it possible." The age of humanity had truly begun. Across the galaxy, species that had cowered before, the Kethara Empire now looked to Earth for leadership and protection, not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they had proven something that no other species had managed in 3 centuries of warfare. They had shown that determination and sacrifice could overcome any advantage, that the willingness to stand up for others made a species worthy of respect, and that sometimes the best way to win a war was to be willing to lose everything for the right cause. Jinho Choi and his crew were gone, but their legacy lived on in every human ship that ventured into the unknown, every diplomatic mission that chose cooperation over conquest, and every act of courage that protected the innocent from those who would harm them. The galaxy had learned to fear nothing until a human dreadnought arrived, and now it was learning something even more powerful, what it meant to hope for a better future, built not on conquest and domination, but on the simple human belief that everyone deserved a chance to live in peace among the stars. In the end, that was humanity's greatest weapon, not their reality anchors or quantum torpedoes, but their absolute refusal to accept that things had to be the way they had always been. When the rest of the galaxy said the Kethara were unstoppable, humans said, "Watch us prove you wrong." And they did. The Indomitable plunged into the heart of the Kethara superfleet, like a spear of human determination. Reality anchors at full power created a sphere of locked space-time around the massive Dreadnought, forcing dozens of alien ships into normal physics where they became vulnerable for the first time in their existence. Captain Jinho Choi gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Hundreds of Cathara vessels focused their weapons on his ship, but many of their reality-bending attacks were useless inside the anchor field. For the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy's most feared predators were fighting on equal terms. Hull, breach on Deck 7, reported Chief Engineer Youngsik Choi over the intercom. I've got teams working on it, but Captain, we can't take much more of this. How are the reality anchors holding up? Jinho asked. Science Officer Woo Jin Nam checked his readings with growing alarm. We're at 120% of rated capacity. The quantum field generators are overheating and I'm detecting microfractures in the dimensional matrix. Can you keep them running? For maybe 10 more minutes. After that, the whole system will burn out. 10 minutes. Jinho knew it would not be enough time to destroy the entire enemy fleet, but maybe it would be enough to accomplish something else, something that would give humanity a chance in the larger war that was coming. Mr. Seo, plot a course for that massive ship at the center of their formation, the one that looks like a small planet. Navigation Officer Dongwoo Seo checked his sensors. Sir, that's the enemy flagship. It's 20 kilometers across and appears to be heavily defended. Perfect. That's where their commander will be. Tactical Officer So Young Kang understood immediately. Sir, if we can take out their leadership, the rest of the fleet might retreat. That's the idea. All weapons, concentrate fire on the flagship. I want a path cleared through their defensive screen. The Indomitable's guns opened fire with everything they had. Quantum torpedoes streaked toward the enemy flagship while particle beams carved through the smaller ships protecting it. Several Cathara hunters exploded in brilliant flashes as human weapons found their marks, but more ships moved to replace them. Admiral Velthera watched the human Dreadnought fight its way toward her position with growing amazement. The ship was outnumbered 1,000 to 1, its hull was breached in dozens of places, and its crew should have surrendered hours ago. Instead, they kept fighting with a determination she had never seen before. Admiral, her tactical officer, reported, "The human vessel is heading directly for us. Their weapons are punching through our defensive screen." How is that possible? They are just one ship. Their reality anchor field is neutralizing our phase advantages. Ships caught inside, it cannot use dimensional weapons or phase drives. They are forced to fight with conventional technology. Velthara felt something she had not experienced since her first battle centuries ago. Doubt. Bring us about. Use our size advantage to crush them. The Void render was enormous compared to human ships, but it was still dwarfed by the Void, Emperor's flagship. The planetary construct began moving toward the Indomitable, its biomechanical weapons charging with enough energy to vaporize entire moons. But Jinho had one more card to play. Mr. Nam, what would happen if we overloaded the quantum tunnel drive while it's connected to the reality anchors? Woo Jin's face went pale. Captain, I've never run those calculations. The dimensional feedback could tear a hole in space-time itself. Would it hurt the enemy? Sir, it would hurt everything in the system, including us. But would it stop them? Woo Jin was quiet for a moment as he considered the implications. If we created a large enough dimensional rift inside their interdimensional generators, yes, it would probably destroy their entire fleet. But Captain, we're talking about forces that could destabilize this entire star system. Jinho looked around the bridge at his officers. They all understood what he was asking. It was not just a suicide mission. It was a weapon that could kill everyone in the system, human and alien alike. Medical Officer Hee-Jin Park's voice came over the intercom. Bridge, I have 43 crew members down with dimensional displacement sickness. The alien weapons are affecting people even in the protected sections of the ship. Communications Specialist Seung-Ho Kim added his report. Sir, I'm picking up transmissions from the 3 planets under attack. The aliens are systematically destroying all human settlements. Millions of civilians are dying down there. Jinho closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of all the innocent people who were counting on him to stop this invasion. When he opened them again, his decision was made. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for quantum tunnel drive overload. We're going to ram this thing right down their throats. Chief Engineer Young Six's voice crackled with static. Captain, if we do this, there won't be enough left of us to fill a coffee cup. I know, Chief, but sometimes that's what it takes to protect the people you care about. Begin the overload sequence. The ship's quantum tunnel drive began drawing power from every system on the vessel. Lights dimmed as energy flowed into the exotic matter containment fields. The reality anchors, already operating beyond their design limits, began resonating with the tunnel drive in ways that had never been tested. On her flagship, Admiral Velthera felt the change immediately. The dimensional barriers around her ship were becoming unstable, fluctuating between locked and unlocked states in patterns that made her crystalline body ache. What are they doing? She demanded. Her science officer's voice was filled with fear. Admiral, they're destabilizing local space-time. If they continue, they could create a dimensional cascade that would destroy everything in the system. They would destroy themselves too. Yes, Admiral. They appear to be willing to sacrifice their own lives to stop us. For the first time in 3 centuries, Velthara began to understand why the Cathara Empire had never encountered a species like humanity. Most civilizations, when faced with overwhelming odds, chose surrender over extinction. These humans were choosing extinction over surrender. The Indomitable continued its charge toward the enemy flagship, reality anchors blazing and quantum tunnel drive building toward overload. Enemy fire hammered the ship's hull, but Jinho's crew kept fighting. They knew they were going to die, but they also knew their sacrifice would save the 3 human worlds under attack. 30 seconds to overload, Wu Jin reported. Captain, the dimensional stress is already affecting the ship's structure. We're holding together, but barely. All weapons, concentrate on the flagship's central mass, Jinho ordered. If we're going to do this, let's make sure we take their command. Structure with us. The Void Emperor himself finally spoke, his voice echoing across all frequencies as his massive ship prepared to destroy the approaching human vessel. Small creatures, you have fought well, but your resistance is pointless. We have conquered 1,000 galaxies. What can one species do against the infinite void? Jinho smiled as he opened a channel to respond. We're about to show you what humans do best, the impossible. The quantum tunnel drive reached critical overload just as the Indomitable closed with the enemy flagship. Jinho gave his final order. All hands, it has been an honor serving with you. For humanity. The explosion that followed rewrote the laws of physics in the Centauri system. The overloaded tunnel drive tore a hole in the fabric of spacetime itself, while the reality anchors created a feedback loop that trapped the expanding dimensional rift in normal space. The result was a weapon that attacked the very foundations of the Cathara's interdimensional technology. Every alien ship caught in the expanding wave of dimensional destruction found its phase drives burning out in cascading failures. Biomechanical hulls that depended on interdimensional energy began dying as they were cut off from the alternate realms that sustained them. The Void Emperor's flagship, caught at the epicenter of the explosion, began to crack apart as its massive interdimensional generators overloaded. The being who had ruled the Cathara Empire for 1,000 years felt his connection to the cosmic void severing, leaving him trapped in normal space for the first time in his existence. Admiral Velthara watched in horror as her superfleet began, falling apart around her. Ships that had never known defeat were drifting helpless in space, their crews dying as life support systems failed. The human ship was gone, vaporized in its own weapons blast. But it had taken most of her fleet with it. All ships, she broadcast on emergency frequencies, retreat, return to the dimensional rifts immediately. But many of her vessels could no longer access interdimensional space. The human weapon had damaged their phase drives beyond repair, stranding them in normal reality where they were vulnerable to conventional attack. As the surviving Cathara ships fled through the dimensional tiers that had brought them to the system, they carried word of something that should have been impossible, a species that could fight interdimensional warfare and win through sheer determination to protect their own people. The age of Cathara dominance was ending, and the galaxy was about to learn the name of the species that had brought down the Empire of the Void. In the aftermath of the battle, 3 human worlds survived when they should have been destroyed.